So, gentlemen, a very heartening news to all Nigerians. And the resolution will be shared to you, and then you can, the president of the NLC is here, the president of TUC is here, so you can see that it's a whole gamut, and every labor movement is represented here. And without really jumping the gun and preempting the gist of the resolution, the Speaker of the House of Reps is here, who would go over the resolution with you, and then the comrades, president of the NLC and the president of the TUC here also will speak to those resolutions. Thank you.
All right, let me very quickly, before we go into this, thank the TUC and the NLC for their sense of duty and patriotism. As you are all aware, they've been here, we've been here for hours, I believe since 4 o'clock, and still counting. We're talking about 5.
Since last week.
Yeah, I mean for today's session. So I want to thank you on behalf of Mr. President and the federal government for taking time out for your commitment to good governance. We have deliberated and debated back and forth, and we have reached, as has been said, a tentative agreement on very salient issues. And I will just basically read what we have here. And it says, following the engagements between the federal government, TUC, and NLC, with the intervention of the Speaker, House of Representatives, to resolve the disputes that arose from the withdrawal of subsidy on PMS, the following resolutions were reached. 1, the federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to establish a joint committee to review the proposal for any wage increase or award and establish a framework and timeline for implementation. 2, the federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to review World Bank Finance Cash Transfer Scheme and propose inclusion of low-income earners in the program. As you are aware, the $800 million loan did not really capture the low-income government workers. So we basically will be talking about how to include them in that scheme. 3, the federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to revive the CNG conversion program earlier agreed with labor centers in 2021 and work out detailed implementation and timing. 4, the labor centers and the federal government to review issues hindering effective delivery in the education sector and propose solutions for implementation. 5, the labor centers and the federal government to review and establish the framework for completion of the rehabilitation of the nation's refineries. 6, the federal government is to provide a framework for the maintenance of roads and expansion of rail networks across the country. All other demands submitted by the TUC, and that's the 7th, all other demands submitted by the TUC to the federal government will be assessed by the joint committee. So consequently, ladies and gentlemen, the parties agreed as follows. 1, the NLC is to suspend the notice of strike forthwith to enable further consultations. 2, the TUC and the NLC to continue the ongoing engagements with the federal government and secure closure on the resolutions above. And finally, the labor centers and the federal government to meet on June 19th, 2023, to agree on an implementation framework. So this communique is signed by Comrade Osifo, President TUC, Comrade Nuhu Toro, Secretary General TUC, Comrade Ajero, President NLC, Comrade Emmanuel Ugbaja, the Permanent Secretary, the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Ms. S. Daju, and by my humble self, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, Speaker, House of Representatives. Thank you very much.
I thought that the Speaker read it out.
The answer to your very simple question is yes, and he has addressed that.
What about the pump price of petrol? Is it going to remain at what it is today?
For the market forces to determine the price? Are you in agreement to that?
The market forces are already determining the prices.
You are no longer insisting that the price be reverted into the whole price.
There are frameworks that will bring that down. If the CNG is working, assuming the CNG is 100 naira per liter, people will prefer 100 naira to 500. Definitely that will moderate it.
Is it fair to say that you have shifted from the demand for the status quo to return?
We have come with a more concrete reality and framework and alternative. The CNG alternative is better than the price even before the increment.
What will you do between now and June 19th? Discussions with your fellow unions in preparation for further discussions with the federal government on June 19th.
What I will be doing, I'll be coming to work.
How viable is the CNG alternative right now? Because it's not a very popular alternative.
Yeah, but if you check countries of the world like Kuwait, like Qatar and others, which large gas deposits, you will agree with me that it's a very viable alternative because the deposit here can sustain the country for the next 500 years. It's a clean energy, eco-friendly, and cheaper. I think the whole battle we are having now is the issue of the cost being at 500. And by our last meeting, during Silva's time, we were talking about 90 naira. So if this government achieves an option or alternative that is even under 90 or 120 or whatever, I think every one of you will be clapping for them. So it's the willpower, to achieve this. A very viable alternative is done all over. So what we need is the willpower. And if we achieve that, I think there will be, a lot of success, a lot of progress so made. I believe that what we need is for them, to work unlike what we experienced before. By now, we should have gone far.
If we do not see the manifest willpower by June 19, what will be your next step?
Sorry, let me just very quickly. Sorry, I think the communication.
Gentlemen of the press, I say good evening to gentlemen of the press. I say good evening to every one of us. As you could observe, that since last week we have been having some level of engagement on the subject at hand.